How many years ago was it that you guys got that peace and were okay to stay in Canyon City?
That was the very beginning of 2004. So almost
Okay,
20 years ago. So
Yeah.
that was, and that was the very beginning of Starpoint too. So
of Starpoint.
yeah, I had just started with Starpoint. So yeah, I almost turned that down. I almost said, that's so funny that you brought that up. I'd almost turned, I said, Roger, Chris is splitting with his partnership. This might not be the best time to do this. And he said, no, Jen, stick with it. Stick with it.
Almost like God saying, I want, these are my people, and I have a plan for them, and you guys are part of that plan. And yeah, you can do this urology thing on the side, since Chris is so into helping people with their prostates and stuff. And I always have to joke about it because Chris has been my urologist. Which I apologize for everyone who had to hear that. But yeah, and how many people have been a part of Starpoint, and how many people have been a part of Night to Shine, and how has Jesus transformed Canyon City through that?
Yeah,
it's stunning. Why don't you read John 15:26?
There we go, 15:26. Okay. When the advocate comes, whom I will send to you from the Father, the Spirit of truth who goes out from the Father, he will testify about me. And you also must testify, for you've been with me from the beginning.
It's almost like Jesus and his Father haven't come up with the official term yet. Holy Spirit. They're calling him Advocate, Spirit of Truth, which to me is interesting because we're already getting into definitions of what the Holy Spirit does, as opposed to the official creedal title. But the things that Jesus promised that he would do, apparently, are still happening today, because he's advocating. I mean, think about that. Holy Spirit's an advocator, and
I love it. I mean, an advocate is a lawyer, right? It's someone who represents you. And, in court, if you got a great lawyer, you're okay. And if you have a bad lawyer, you're not okay. So, but you have the best.
And who has the Holy Spirit been advocating for through you in Canyon City all these years?
Good
maybe
point.
I'm stretching it, but I mean, advocating for the broken, right?
Right. The ones who can't speak up for themselves. That's a beautiful way to put it. Yeah.
So the advocate came and you've reproduced this advocacy with adults with disabilities. I don't know. I just find it amazing that who he is who we become.
Yeah.
And he does it through us. Anyway, I'm getting all misty-eyed here.
But it's an identity that we own. You know what I mean? He works through us, and yet we become more ourselves than we've ever been. And I love that. When you serve others, when you're in that, working in the Spirit, isn't just the most amazing thing, and it is addictive. And I know there's some what is it? I have been guilty of worshiping the power of falling in love with the power that it brings, and that's a dangerous step to do, because it's not about the power; it's about it's about him.
Well, and unless I misunderstand you, you're talking about the power of bringing a blessing. And again, the Night to Shine is one of the most powerful nights. My two favorite days in Canyon City would be the August baptism by the river, and the February Night to Shine event, because they're both so powerful. And so you have a grin on your face that you can't wipe off. Your face hurts by the end of the day because it's been smiling so long.
See, that's that little edge that you have to be careful about. It's wonderful when, like, Night to Shine, it's one of my favorite nights of the year. It's awesome. But what if you start focusing on your part in that, instead of realizing that it was all the Holy Spirit working through you and the whole bunch of, because it's not one person. It takes 240 volunteers.
Yeah. It's an interesting partnership between the Holy Spirit nudging you forward and then you working your tail off. And it does require both. I mean, I suppose the Holy Spirit could do it without us, but for whatever reason, God has chosen to accomplish things on the earth through partnership, and you do your part. And then your joy is more full because you've laid yourself out. I guess if we start thinking it's us, like if the scales tip and it's 51% us and 49% the Lord, probably the way we can tell is our joy it becomes robbed. And then we self-correct, because it's hard to continue forward when we're in our own strength. And I also like it that the Spirit of truth, he's the Spirit of truth, and he's testifying about Jesus. And do you feel like when, and I know I wasn't planning on talking about Night to Shine the whole time, but it's irresistible. Do you feel like the truth of who Jesus is communicated through this advocacy for the broken? And how exactly does that happen?
Oh, wow. Great question. Yes. When it's done right, this year we weren't able to do it for 2 years. And this year we had a whole team of about 25 people, thanks to Dan Kennedy and Colleen Bowen, praying for us. And I tell you what, we felt those prayers. We have people on the team that aren't believers, and even one of the women that isn't even a believer, said she felt those prayers. Mm-hmm. And so it just felt like we were pointing to Jesus. Mm-hmm. The sermon that was given, which was very brief, it felt electric. And feeling isn't everything, but my goodness, it felt like we were, even when we were talking about the food or the prizes, it felt like we were talking about Jesus. It just kept coming back to Jesus. And so that's when I think you really know that the Holy Spirit's operating, and that it's doing what it's supposed to do. When it's really working, it's working, and it's him. It's all him.
And everybody's experiencing having Jesus revealed to them.